Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Random. We've covered all of this week's Marvel books and a few of this week's DC books. Now it's time to wrap things up with all of this week's Batman books. Kicking things off with Detective Comics number 1061. Where we left off, it seemed the Riddler was positioning people in a was taking advantage of people who had secrets in their past, skeletons in their closet, and turning them into citizen criminals. And also, Talia al Ghul appeared to be in town. So the issue begins with Talia and Riddler talking. Apparently, Talia helped the Riddler get some of the information that he's used against his so-called citizen criminals. And last issue ended with Batman trying to save Darby Thomas, as well as another one of these citizen criminals. However, the other was shot by none other than Carolyn Donovan, Deb Donovan's daughter. Batman tries to save her, asks what she did. We get a flashback to a month previously in Arkham Tower, after the events of Shadows of the Bat, it should be noted. Turns out the entire group all of the citizen criminals were in group therapy. They all committed crimes that they hadn't paid for, and so among those is also the sister of the late the man who would pretend to be Dr. Ware. But with the exception of Caroline, they all explain what they did. In the present, Deb tries to help her daughter, but then Caroline turns the gun she's got on Deb. Batman uses his kit to protect the two of them, but there's an explosion, and yeah. He goes after Riddler. There's a call from Deb. Her and Dr. Meridian are being held in the scales of the Statue of Justice in Gotham Harbor. Batgirl joins Batman, and they first they get rid of the loudspeaker being used, but the scales are weakened. Batgirl and Batman save both Dr. Meridian and Caroline. Caroline explains that she had trouble sleeping, and she got an envelope from the Riddler, apparently talking about absolution, and she realized that what she was holding on to was her perception of who she was. Batman seems to save her, however, his line is weakening and Caroline falls into the water. Afterwards, Batman talks with. GCPD can't find her. No sign of her. Batman tries to do what he can to Deb, who's torn. In a way, she hopes she never sees her daughter again, but at the same time, she thinks about when her daughter was a little girl. And back at the garage, Talia shows up. Pointing out that And Batman points out that he was aware of her he's aware of her involvement. Her involvement was just solicited favors. And that is where our A story ends. Next up, we've got Gotham Girl Interrupted, also the finale. Where we left off, Gotham Girl had seemingly uncovered evidence that Dr. Meridian was involved in some shady dealings at Arkham Tower, and went to confront her about this by flying the two of them out the window. Huntress, however, shows up, does what she can to deal with Gotham Girl, explaining that Batman arms them for Superman level threats. But after she's bound, Gotham Girl explains to Huntress that Superman wishes he was her. But Chase is able to talk a little bit of sense into Gotham Girl, even if Gotham Girl is accused of murder. But apparently, a project she was a part of at Arkham Asylum is still being utilized. And there are emails from Chase's email address. But Huntress and Gotham Girl and Dr. Meridian figure out who it was sending the emails. And Oracle recorded the entire thing courtesy of Huntress. Seeing the lab, causes Gotham Girl to leave, and her main way of just kind of dealing with numbing herself is to is flying so high that the air pressure makes her head foggy and her skin freezes. She goes numb, then comes back to Earth. Doesn't actually fix anything, but it always leaves her coming down. She's at Wayne Manor. Huntress is waiting for her. They brought some food and talks about forming connections, and Gotham Girl realizes that's what was going on with Andre, is that the website was intended to help her connect. But even she help her connect and show she can still help others, and connect with those who need her, even when she's miserable. However, this is all being washed from a scrying pool by Talia al Ghul, who had been manipulating all of this. And apparently this is a thread that will be followed up on in the upcoming Batman vs. Robin. And that is where the issue and both stories end. The Riddler story was interesting. I know I said it a few times over the course of the last few months, but I liked the redesign by Ivan Rice. I have the sad feeling, though, that we won't be seeing that redesign for some time. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Harley Quinn number 16. Where we left off, Kevin, Harley's sidekick of sorts, discovered that his girlfriend Sam was in fact the Verdict, the vigilante who framed Harley for murder. Also, Harley had been broken out of Blackgate by Batwoman, and the two of them had, in fact, fought Verdict and injured her. So, this is basically the origin of Verdict. Um, with Sam explaining how she first met Harley Quinn. It was after a bank heist. She gunned a convertible into the harbor. Batman pulled her out, and she was turned over to GCPD. Transferred to Arkham, but with Sam and her partner Gary, as well as SWAT. But Kevin interrupts, explaining he's going to call the police, but Lisa decides that he'll let her explain, and then he's going to call the police. But apparently the SWAT officers were on Joker's payroll. Harley got free, killed one of the SWAT guys, caused a shotgun blast that killed Gary, and like I said, got away. While Sam was in the hospital, she was put on. She was trying to explain, something must have happened. There was no way she had a weapon. That Harley had a weapon after all. While wondering about things, she overhears the captain and the surviving SWAT officer discussing what happened. Discussing the fact that Joker will pay them as agreed upon. And so Sam ends up killing the SWAT officer. Afterwards, she was put on a desk job for a while and paid a sizable sum for early retirement. But she's trying to stop the cycle of crime in Gotham. Batman and his people don't kill the criminals. The institutions don't help them. But then Harley shows up at Kevin's, saying to forgive him for wondering if maybe she had killed those people, and then Sam fires at them and explains that Harley's guilty. That is where the issue ends. Looks like the the verdict arc will conclude in Harley Quinn number 17. Moving on to our next book. Also, I might say, an interesting origin. All this time I honestly thought that Sam was Bluebird, mainly because I'd only seen a few appearances of Bluebird, so yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Task Force Z number 9. Where we left off, while trying to build an entirely new task force, or a mostly new Task Force Z to take care of Mr. Bloom and Powers International, Red Hood has been little by little burning his bridges with the Bat family. So we begin at the train tracks run through Gotham. Batgirl, Stephanie, has brought Jason some coffee. And basically explains that he's messing up more than that Jason's messing up more than he understands, and that the rest of the Bat family cares about him, but he's pushing them he's pushing that care to its limits, and he's going to have to end things now, or his history won't matter. At Powers International, it turns out that Mr. Bloom has managed to resurrect Kirk Langstrom and separate him from Man-Bat. There are rumblings of something going on at the Snyder Ice Rink in Bloodhaven. Task Force Z shows up, and they find Sundowner dead when the lights go off, triggering her monstrous side, which attacks the task force. But while looking for some classified files, Bloom and Bloom comes upon young Derek Powers, the son of the owner of Powers International, and by the time of Batman Beyond, the CEO of Powers International. And, well, Wayne Powers was by that point. Sundowner is neutralized by the task force, but then they bring her back to their hideout, where it turns out that they've been getting a new hideout, courtesy of Harvey Dent negotiating with Black Mask. As Task Force Z leaves the ice rink, they're met by a whole swarm of cops. A drone flies by and causes Bane to just basically go nuts on the cops and run away. But Task Force arrives at their new headquarters. Red Hood and has a tense moment with his new landlord, who has a zombified Victor Zsasz sicked on him briefly. The decision comes to basically pull the little bits of Lazarus resin from Sundowner's body to basically keep the others in working order, thus killing Sundowner completely. Then Miss Powers shows up, is shown the proof of at least some of Mr. Bloom's progress, but also explaining she's had it with his crap, because, well, yeah, he's accessing files he shouldn't have had access to, but he explains he had access to them before, though they shouldn't have. But turns out that Bane from Task Force Z is actually under the control of, to a degree, through a chip implanted in his head, of Mr. Bloom. And he just arrived at Wayne Powers, so, and well, Bloom suggests asking who this Bane is, and that is where the issue ends. The twists and turns of Task Force Z certainly have been interesting, especially with the fact that apparently Bane isn't actually dead. So the Bane in here is not the actual Bane. Moving on to our next book, though, we've got Batman Catwoman number 12, the final issue of the Maxi series. So yeah, where we left off, Catwoman has escaped. Elderly Selina Kyle has escaped from prison. In the future, let's see. And it seemed that Selina and Bruce were mending their personal issues. The issues largely set at Christmas, so we get Uh, Selina spending Christmas at Wayne Manor, and Kenneth being surprised she never had Christmas growing up. Selina and Helena in the future having Christmas dinner, and apparently Selina got her something, but Helena doesn't want it, figuring it's her wedding ring. Bruce is down in the past. Bruce is down about the death of Andre Beaumont, the Phantasm. But they say the two of the basically Selina has Batman standing for her and Bruce standing in front of a mirror, and kind of in an attempt to make him kind of feel better in a not in a just kind of in one of those ways of, hey, look, we're who we are. A bat and cat, two wounded animals who would, in the midst of the hurt, managed to crawl to each other. And there's a past exchange between the two of them about Selina and Joker. But it turns out that in the future, Selina's going away. Not permanently, just for a little while. And it looks like she got Joker's glasses for Helena. Sold them from the GCPD evidence lockup. At the Gotham Chapel, Bruce and Selina go to get married. Apparently, there's an option called Batrimony, which is basically you get married by Batman himself. The ultimate Gotham experience. The package also includes two genuine Batarangs, a Bat picture taken after, and a special Bat wedding license. It's a legal document. It just has a Bat stamp on it. It's very special. Lois and Clark ended up showing up at an instant's notice to witness the proceedings. We also see one of the earliest points where Bruce told Selina that he loves her, and then we catch up with Selina after having left Gotham. She destroyed all the evidence of her involvement in in what happened. So she's going to leave town for a while. Her PR people will take care of it. In about a year or so, she'll be back in Gotham. But it turns out that Andre Beaumont didn't die. Selina got Clayface to pose as her, so she would fake her death. Then we get the actual ceremony. Things go a little wrong. The wrong bit of music, the wrong mix is played. But the issue ends with Bruce and Selina kissing. That is where, well, actually, the issue and the series, I should say, ends with that. Overall, I enjoyed the series. It was irritating the way it kind of jumped back and forth, but I think the biggest irritation is that it's not part of like the official DC timeline. It's in its own kind of timeline. So, which it's aggravating, but I get why. It's a whole thing about aging the main characters. Because if you age them, then eventually they're going to age out of being able to be heroes, and well, yeah. Overall, it was an enjoyable series. I'm still fairly certain that the current miniseries Batman Killing Time, also by Tom King, takes place in the same basic timeline as Batman Catwoman. Moving on to our last book for the week, we've got Batman Fortress, number 2. Where we left off, an apparent alien invasion had crippled the Earth. There was a blackout. And of all the people to be missing at the time was Superman. At the Justice League's emergency headquarters, a plan is discussed between a handful of League members. The League will be flying with a joint air group to deal with the alien vessel. Upon arrival, however, it turns out that their weapons, including the weapons of the Justice League, can't do anything. While Aquaman's trident is able to at least somewhat pierce the alien ship, what it's made of seems to cocoon Arthur. Batman basically has Flash be a high-speed missile, but it doesn't seem to do any good. Cyborg is cut in half, and Flash is recovered on board and is being held aboard the USS Gerald Ford. Leg broken in 3 places. Cyborg, they've got his top half, and well, he's not doing too great. But he was able to get some scans on the vessel with it's apparently Kryptonian. But Cyborg passes, and back at the cave, well, Batman's not happy. Apparently, worldwide power and communications were momentarily restored to facilitate the delivery of a message. Basically, attempt no further interference. And Batman says he's starting to wonder if maybe this wasn't the precursor to an attack after all. Though Alfred points out, it's not an attack, then what? Whatever it is, that needs to be figured out quickly. Alfred suggests Batman get some rest, but apparently he salvaged Cyborg's head, and they've got some work to do on dealing with the alien threat. In Kansas, presumably Smallville, a ship touches down at the old Kent farm. Some scans show trace amounts of energy, but there's a new family living there. Apparently these are people who've been wronged by the Kryptonians, and they intend to destroy his childhood home. And they do so. But the current residents are at least allowed to leave. And that is where the issue ends. Fortress is definitely getting interesting. I mean, it started off interesting, but I'd say we now have a much better idea as to what is actually going on. This group of aliens is apparently looking to get even with Superman for the damage that Krypton did to their worlds. Anyway, that's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.